Hello, warriors. Thank you for tuning in to the Invisible Diaries, where we shed light on invisible and chronic illnesses through community support, education, and advocacy. Welcome to episode 9. We are your hosts. I'm Misty.
And I'm Amber.
And today we are talking about toxic positivity. As always, a quick disclaimer, anything mentioned in today's episode is strictly for informational purposes only and not meant to treat, diagnose, or cure disease.
Also, we know battling chronic illness can be difficult. So if you find that you or a loved one are in need of someone to talk to, please reach out to a trusted resource. Or if you're in the US, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Again, that number is 1-800-273-8255.
Now let's get started.
Absolutely. We're talking about one of your favorites today, Misty.
This is my absolute favorite topic ever. It's near and dear to my heart because, we have a mental health epidemic. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but I have. And unfortunately, I don't feel like it's getting any better. I feel like it's part of, I feel like it's almost like it's getting worse because of toxic positivity. So just like a quick little info, Amber and I are both students going in for nursing, but I recently just decided to change mine because I know that I can't do it, and that's okay. That's fine. I just know with my health, physically with my health, there's no way I could handle the program and the time. I mean, I have doctor's appointments every week. It's July. The month's almost over, but I've already been to the hospital. I almost had 2 ER visits back to back, and fortunately I powered through. So it's been a rough month, and I just can't imagine being tied down to that. So I decided, to pursue the psychology field instead, because I feel like we're stuck in the 60s still. I mean, we can 3D print hearts, but yet, we still have like this huge mental health epidemic that has not like hardly progressed as far as like treatments and cures and trying to make a dent in that. So,
well, and there's still such a stigma about having mental health, anything, whether you're an advocate, whether you're trying to be proactive about your mental health, or whether you're dealing with mental illnesses. Like, it's still taboo to talk about, which is insane in the 21st century.
It really is. And I feel like the reason why we're such a depressed nation is because we're basically raised to suppress our emotions. Like, so unless you are happy or excited or have these great joyful emotions, like it's like you have to suppress anything. So it's like we're not allowed to be angry or sad or upset. And I'm sorry, but those are healthy emotions that you go through in life. It's all about balance and trying to navigate through those. But it happens. We're not robots. And I feel like over time with toxic positivity, it's almost like we are trying to be programmed to be robots so that we, God forbid we're mad about having a chronic illness or sad because we had a bad day. Like, have your moment, be sad. And, if someone does have their moment, don't, give them a hard time about it,
Absolutely.
People are scared to open up and talk to people.
And it's time to start talking, for sure. What the thing about toxic positivity, for those of you guys that are listening that don't know what that is, it's basically the idea of encouraging people to only be positive or only be happy or only be, looking on the bright side all of the time. And that the idea of doing that and telling people that and inflicting that on others is actually more harmful than helpful.
Yeah, because you're going to shut somebody out and you're going to make someone feel like ashamed of their emotions or that they can't open up and talk to you. And what happens when people don't talk about their feelings? They bottle them up. Right. And it just makes things worse. I think it's healthy for people to be able to vent and it's healthy. Like, the best thing you can do as a friend is to listen. and allow people to be able to have someone to talk to. You may be the only person they have to talk to.
Absolutely. And if you guys are wondering like where this would apply in today's, other than just like that friend that's like cheer up or smile, which is my personal favorite.
Can't be that bad.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it when you're scrolling through Facebook or you're scrolling through Instagram and you see a post that someone's like good vibes only, like if don't bring your negativity here. And that's great, like if they want to have their page be, but don't think that that means that you can't feel whatever you're feeling that day. If you're feeling down and someone you see that good vibes only, don't think that that applies to you. That's their opinion.
Yeah.
If you're feeling down, feel down.
There was one that was going around on social media. It's a while back, like a couple weeks ago, and it says really big, no, it doesn't suck. And then it shows like little pictures like Monday doesn't suck, your genetics don't suck, the weather doesn't suck, your partner doesn't suck, your negative mindset sucks. So stop complaining about what's missing from your life and go manifest the crap out of your dreams. And a lot of people were like loving it, sharing it, wonderful. And I was like, no, this is not okay, because you know what? Sometimes Monday sucks. It really does. And it's okay.
Sometimes, like those of us with genetic disorders,
sometimes they suck. I'm sorry, but my genes do suck. They truly do.
Yeah.
The weather, that's all personal opinion. Like sometimes the weather sucks too. Maybe I'm not the biggest fan of,
heat,
super hot
beautiful
days.
Sunshine. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I actually love it when it rains. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
It's like nap weather. And yeah, I guess it might be frustrating if someone's constantly like, oh, this sucks, boo-hoo, this sucks, but at the same time,
well, and we're not talking about not having an argument about it. So like, we're not saying like you can't say, I disagree, or negativity is not okay. What happens is that we're talking about the kind of negativity that you sit in and you stay in for long periods of time. It's the kind of where it's not just a normal flow of emotions. Like you're allowed to be like, yeah, you know what, my genetics do suck, or Mondays do suck because it's a really long day for me at work. It's the kind when it's you choose to be negative and you stay in that negative space. That's what we're talking about, not the normal reaction.
Right.
And if you find yourself staying in that negative space, that's the time to reach out, because there may be something to investigate further with an actual professional.
Yeah, exactly. And the whole thing, like your negative mindset sucks. It's not if you feel someone has like a really negative mindset, and sometimes people do go there, then maybe even try reaching out to them and ask them like if they're okay. Maybe
Absolutely.
They just feel like they don't have anyone to talk to, and that's what they're doing. And I get that, like, people don't want to hear that all the time. They don't want like to be fully saturated in that. But
right.
The whole stop complaining about what's missing from your life and go manifest the crap out of your dreams. That's not always how it works. You can't just always just sit there and I want to manifest that I get healed and I'm cured and I feel better. And like, I mean, there's truly people out there that think like if I just changed my mindset, I would feel better. And to me, it's just like, it's such a slap in the face. It's like, I see a therapist. I try to be positive all the time. I mean, there's times where I'll have like the worst news and I'll be like, it's okay, I'm going to power through. But you know what? Like, I'm still going to cry about it. I'm still going to be angry about it. I'm going to go through the cycles of grief about it. And, and I'm going to try to be healthy about it and eventually try to like, be a little more positive. But and maybe not everybody has that tool or that mindset yet to take that next step, because it really sucks. Some people are truly lost in the moment they're in, and to just kick them while they're down and to just be like, to not be supportive at all. And as it's like now these people are so alone because they don't have anyone to talk to.
Right. And when I think, there are a lot of families that have grown up that, you don't really show emotion, and you don't, necessarily talk about the way that you feel. And it's okay if you don't want to, if you don't want to talk about it. What we're talking about is, it's okay, you don't necessarily have to talk about it, but whatever you're feeling, that's okay. That's healthy to feel good, bad, all the in between. However you're feeling, that's right for you. And if it's something that you feel like you're sitting in a little too long, then you can, figure out what the next step is, whether you need to reach out to someone or whether you need to, journal or whatever it is that tool wise that you do to kind of get yourself out of a funk. But to feel guilty or to feel shameful because you're scrolling through social media and you don't feel as upbeat as someone, or you don't feel like if you just sit and meditate, and it's nothing against meditation or manifestation, those tools work great for a lot of people, but it's not a one size fits all.
Absolutely. And like I said, you can't, a lot of people too, they're always trying to think like, fake it till you make it. And that's right. Another thing I don't like, because sure, you can try to just like go for it, but that's not like faking it till you make it. Like, you're, work through it, bust your ass and feel it, grow. That's how you should handle it. Because a lot of people, they take that fake it till you make it and apply it to their everyday life, but deep down on the inside, they're hurting and they're suffering. And then people wonder why all of a sudden, something terrible happens to someone and they had no idea. Because they never spoke about it, because they were faking it until they made it, or they were being shamed on social media as a whole, that, sharing these emotions is bad.
Right. Well, and guys, something to keep in mind is that if you're human, you have emotions, unless you're suffering from something that gives you the inability to empathize, like, and they're not to say that there are not issues like, people that are sociopaths, people that have the inability. I mean, obviously there are exceptions, but for the most part, human emotion is part of being human, and so when you're scrolling through and you see someone that's up all the time, that's a perception, that's not reality. So that's, we know that a lot of people use social media to keep that the highlight reel of their life, but just remember, keep in the back of your mind that that's not real. That's Absolutely. Just what they're wanting you to see. So it's not reality. Reality is feeling things.
Right. And so, people will preach like, focus on the positive, but which is great, but at the same time, like, it's not healthy to just strictly focus on the positive. Like, there are negative aspects in your life. So instead of simply ignoring them and focusing on one thing because it's positive, focus on the negative and work through it and try to fix it and figure it out and handle it. That's what you should do. You should work through it, not focus on positive only, pretend to be happy, fake it till you make it, suppress yourself until you're depressed.
Right. Or feeling.
I can't understand why people don't grasp the concept. And it's just like, positive, manifest this. No, bust your ass, work hard.
And part of being healthy is saying, look, I'm having a tough day today and I feel sad today and I feel whatever I'm feeling, and I'm just going to feel it. I'm not fighting it. I'm not pushing it down. I'm not, wanting to like not deal with it. I'm going to figure out whatever way I need to deal with it. And so for me, I journal. Sometimes I just verbally vomit onto pages and I don't even go back and look at it till later, because I might need to get it out, but I might not be ready to like 100% pick it apart and deal with it that way.
For me, venting helps me so much.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so like, even I had an issue the other day and I called you up and I was like pacing and venting. And as soon as I got it out, I felt so much better. And then I kind of recognized, like, we like figured out what the true underlying issue was. Right. And what would suck is if you were just like, what, you're being negative and you didn't want to hear it. Like,
or you're so wrong for feeling this way.
Right.
It's like, and that's not okay.
Maybe if you feel like you have a lot of stuff going on in your life and you're venting, because you like to vent like me, and people just think because it's so much and it's so heavy stuff and and maybe your friends are looking at it as, you're just like negative all the time, then maybe at that point, something you could do is to get a therapist. That's something that's kind of also why I got a therapist, because I realized like I have so much going on that my friends can't handle it and they don't know how to respond. And I'm like, so why don't I, have a professional whose literal job is to listen to me vent, so that I'm not putting that pressure on my friends. And that did make a big difference.
Absolutely. Guys, counseling, I want to say this and I want to make sure people hear, like, counseling is the most proactive thing that you can do for yourself, because if you think about it from a standpoint, we talk about tools in our toolbox a lot on this channel, because it's so true. Because when you're growing up, your parents and your environment can only give you so many tools. But at some point, when you know something's not working for you, or something, you're at a crossroads that you need outside assistance, you wouldn't try to build a house with just a hammer and a screwdriver. You would go and get more tools to build the thing that you want to build. Emotional well-being is the same thing. Like if you're trying to get, to a place that you want to change, or there's something happening in your life that you want to be different, you go get more tools. And counseling is something that it's another tool set that you can add to your toolbox. So it's like, there's no negative connotation around getting counseling, or,
I think everyone should have therapy.
I'm telling you, it's not just about talking. It's about someone actually giving you things, to help deal with something that you may have not been able to deal with before. So there is no stigma.
You're also able to just vent and say all the negative things you want to this person
with no judgment. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and if you are a friend and someone you feel being like negative a lot, then maybe that's a suggestion you can make in a nice way, of course.
Sure.
Not like go get therapy or you need therapy, but instead, just say like, hey, I notice you have so much going on your plate and you're overwhelmed all the time, and
right.
Have you considered talking to a therapist? Maybe they could help you work through the problems. There's ways to go about it. So there's a meme that I love and that I saved that I wanted to read. It's a picture of Eeyore, from Winnie the Pooh. Mm-hmm. Everyone loves Eeyore. And it says, the awesome thing about Eeyore is that even though he is basically clinically depressed, he still gets invited to participate in adventures and shenanigans with all of his friends. And they never expect him to pretend to be happy. They just love him anyway, and they never leave him behind or ask him to change.
One of my favorites.
Amazing. I mean, be that friend. Like if there's an Eeyore in your life, then just just take over.
It's right. And it's not saying that, you have to match their frequency or that they have to match yours. Everybody gets to be in their space. So if you feel like you have an Eeyore in your life, somebody or the Debbie Downer, which I hate that term, but it's like where someone's, it's always constantly the sky is falling, or, and you feel like that's bringing you down, then you can readjust your boundaries. And if you don't know what boundaries are, listen to our last episode. We talked a lot about it. But basically, but it doesn't mean that you get to make them you don't have to try to bring them up to your frequency. That's not your job. Your job is to, love the people that are in your life and to, help them when they need help. And it's kind of gauging. Sometimes you can't always ask for help, but there's a balance as to, if you want to feel positive, feel positive. If you want to feel negative, but don't feel guilty because you're not where someone else is at.
Right. And there's another meme that I love, and I'll share it on the blog that, we're going to share about this episode. And so it has like validation and hope, and then toxic positivity, and kind of shows like the difference of the two. So, an example of toxic positivity is you'll get over it. Well, no, that's not going to help. That's not helpful. Right. Because maybe someone doesn't know how to get over it. So like a better thing to say for like validation and hope would say, this is hard. You've done things before and I believe in you. That's something that's a little bit more supportive besides like, Absolutely. Oh, you'll get over it. Another one is just be positive. Okay. Again, there's positive and negative. That's just life. positive and negative, up and down. We can't ignore one whole half of the spectrum. I'm sorry.
Right.
Something more supportive.
I was just going to say, it's not sunshine all the time.
Right.
Like, it isn't.
Something more supportive to say would be, I know there's a lot that could go wrong. What could go right? I mean, that's a better way to kind of word it, because then you can challenge that person to, think of like the things that are going right. And that's something that I remind myself too, like when things are like, when it's hitting the fan,
right.
Sometimes I'll sit there and say, okay, well, what's good right now? What's good? Maybe it's my marriage, or, my family life, like my kids, like at least I have that. Or, something else happened that day that was great. I mean, that's a way of focusing on the positive, but at the same time, you're still acknowledging, like, yeah, there are negative things in life. That's just life.
Absolutely.
The one that you said earlier, good vibes only. And then the better thing to say is all vibes are welcome here.
which by the way, guys, Invisible Diaries, that's our mantra.
It really
all
is.
Vibes are welcome wherever you're at. We say that all the time, and you guys might see it on our Instagram post where we say, we're holding space for you. Mm-hmm. And what that means is just like lunch, like we're saving a seat for you. You don't have to sit down, you don't have to participate, you can just scroll through, you don't have to like something necessarily, but we're holding space for you regardless, because we accept you as you are.
Absolutely. And then the last example is stop being so negative. Which is like a horrible thing to say to someone, because again, it's like, we don't know what they're going through, and why can they not express, how they're feeling. So right. A better thing to say is, it's pretty normal to have some negativity in this situation. Yeah. Which is true. Like, what you're feeling is normal, and, like let someone like know. Like I feel like, all the time, it's like people, they're ashamed of how they're feeling, and they don't want to open up, and they don't want to share their feelings, because the way society and social media is these days is they're shaming them. Right.
Well, and another thing too, I find with my son, if he's being exceptionally upset or angry, or I notice that he's a little bit more on the negative side of things, it gives me a moment to, because I know him, I can take a step back, and instead of being like, why are you having such a bad attitude? I can step back and say something like, is everything okay? What's going, what's going on that, it seems like you're having a really tough time. It seems like you're really angry about something. Is there anything that you want to talk about? And a lot of times for him, he hasn't even checked in with himself. So it gives him a moment to pause, to be like, wait, yeah, I am kind of upset about this thing that happened the other day. I didn't even realize I was carrying it with me still. So, and same thing for me. Like, if I notice I'm starting to get critical of others, I'm like, what's going on? Like, I need to take a step back. Like, are you okay, Amber?
Yeah.
I ask myself that a lot.
Yeah.
Just as a check-in.
Sometimes we got to check ourselves. I know, like, for me, I'll notice, like, if there's a person that's like someone I actually care about, and I'm sitting there being like, thinking these negative things about them, then, I'll kind of backtrack, like, okay, why am I upset? Why would I say that? And then, like, it sounds cheesy, but I'll try to balance it out by, thinking, okay, what are like 3 good things about them? Like, okay, this person's strong, they're, they bust their ass, they're successful in what they do, and they have a great outlook on life. And I'll think of like positive things to say about that person, because I was saying something or thinking something negative, because maybe I'm just like having a rough day, and we're human, we do that. So sometimes we got to do that kind of stuff, and work on ourselves. But that's all our own like personal journey that only we can do. But as far as having people in your life, I just, like I said, the best advice I can give is just maybe listen, or ask, like you said, asking if they're okay. Like, especially with kids, like that's such a great example. I know, like, my daughter will have her moments sometimes where she'll like stomp around and shut her door, and like have like this mood, and there's been times where I'd be like frustrated, or like, oh, like, fine, go to your room. But, and then I realized, like, digging deeper, like, you know, I would knock on the door and be like, hey, what's going on? And sometimes she would just cry and, you know, this is how my day went. And it's like, I can't imagine if I didn't take the moment to like ask, because it was like all that stuff unleashed she needed to get out and talk about. And like, I'm so grateful that like I'm aware, so that she was able to have me to vent to, and she felt so much better. Her mood changed just because she had someone to talk to about it. And if not, if I didn't do that, she would just continue to feel alone and like she can't talk about it. And that just drags on and on and on and on. So like, how much of a huge difference and change did that make by asking what's wrong versus ignoring it and walking away?
Right, because at the end of the day, like sometimes you just want to be validated that you're here and that it's okay to be angry. I mean, I say that to my son a lot, like, you know, and going back to our last episode with boundaries, you know, I'll be like, it's okay for you to be upset. Whatever you're feeling right now, you're allowed to feel it, but you just can't yell at me. Like, so I'm able to let him be who he is in his moment and to ride his emotional roller coaster without necessarily, you know, and also stick up for myself, you know. So it's like there are absolutely healthy ways to be with someone that might not be at the frequency you are at the moment. So you might be in a really good place and operating really, you know, feeling like things are just, and then someone else might not be. So it's okay, I think, to let them be in their, my AirPod died.
Absolutely. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to feel. All of that is okay, you know, and that's what people need to know, because we live in a world where we're like, it's like autopilot. We're expected to respond, I'm fine, you know, and
it's also okay to like, it's okay to like the good vibes only post. If you're feeling like, you know, yeah, good vibes only, like, great, you want to like it, that's okay too. Just don't make that someone else's truth. Like, don't make someone else feel bad because they're not feeling like good vibes only at the moment.
Right. Because we're all human at the end of the day, and we shouldn't have to put on a mask, you know. So if you feel there's, you know, mental health issues are prevalent and a thing, then, you know, that's the way you can make a difference, is by trying to get rid of toxic positivity and letting people, you know, navigate through the balance of good and bad, you know, and finding the healthy way. Because that's what's healthy, is to, you know, recognize the bad and the negative and to work through it. You know, that's the right way. That's the healthy way. That's how people, you know, get through. That's how people heal. In order to heal, you have to acknowledge, you know, and people aren't acknowledging because they're suppressing their emotions for you, you know.
Right.
So
we're carrying a lot of shame and guilt around it, and we're done with that, guys. Like, we're at the age and the era that you can have a sad or bad day. Like, we don't make kids not, you know, have a temper tantrum or not, you know, they feel it. They're the most beautiful examples of living in the moment. Like, if they're frustrated, you know it. If they're happy, you know it. So
clap your hands.
they're just living it. They're just living in the moment. And I think that, you know, to not put unrealistic expectations on yourself and just allow yourself to feel what you're feeling is the most wonderful thing you could do for your mental well-being.
Yes, definitely. I agree. I mean, like with this topic, I could go on and on and on about it. And, you know, I feel like, I don't know. I'm hoping that maybe some people out there listen and realize that it's okay, you know, to be upset. And like, you know, there's a blog post that I had written, which was the stages of grief with chronic illness. And it talks about, you know, anger and bargaining and denial and all that stuff. And I mean, that was, grief is something that's normal, you know. And I feel like in our culture, it's like you're not allowed, or if you do, you're only allowed this small little time frame. In other
Right.
cultures, like I can't remember which culture it was, but like if a loved one passed away, like I think you were able to grieve for a year. Like you didn't have to contribute to the community. People would bring you dinner and they gave you like a year. It's like here in our country, it's like, okay, after a month, it's like, what's wrong with you? Like
Yeah.
you need to be getting over this. Like people are just like, suck it up and get over it. It's like that's not how it works.
Well, and everybody's emotional ability to bounce back is very different, and it's such a, they say grief comes in waves, but I think all emotion comes in waves. You're not happy all of the time, and sometimes it could be something that reminds you of someone or a time or a place, and you might feel angry or sad or a lot of different things. So to tell someone, things like it just can't be that bad, or things like that aren't helpful. Things, making someone feel like, because then it just adds to, you're already feeling yucky and then now you're feeling guilty for feeling yucky.
Absolutely. So yeah, do you have any other points you want to throw in?
No, just all vibes are welcomed here is definitely where we're at.
Yeah, I think my last little thing I want to throw in is it was something I wrote a while back, and it says positivity and denial can look the same, so check on your strong friends. While someone can look strong and happy, they may be fighting a war you can't see.
Love it.
Because that's the other thing too, like I said, we're always, everyone's trying to suck it up and look positive, and that's when sometimes people get blindsided because they just had no idea what someone was going through until it hits the max. So even people who seem to be really well put together and strong, like, maybe ask them how they're doing and check in on them. Because that's the other thing, too, is then you have people who like are so fortunate to have never experienced like true depression or anxiety. Like, I know someone who was like, I think I have anxiety. Like, I get really anxious before a big meeting. No, 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 no. That's not anxiety. That's a normal human emotion to feel a little anxious and nervous, over something big. Being a little sad that like your favorite show is canceled or something like that. That's not depression.
Right.
And so
Those are
people who
proportionate responses.
absolutely, so people who believe that it's like something you can just suck it up and it's an emotional thing that you choose to control are people who just truly don't understand, chemical imbalance, and they've never
Right.
experienced it firsthand. And so, they think that you can just change your mindset.
It's not how chemistry works.
So, if you're one of those people who think that, people can just change their mindset, it's not always about that. Like some
And it's just
people,
such a small portion of the big picture.
right. And some people are, they might have the best life and they might be successful, have a great job, have money, a great relationship, and they might just be an Eeyore. They might be depressed, and it might not necessarily be for any reason. They might have some type of chemical imbalance or mental health issue that, because that's how it works. It does not discriminate. I mean, think of Robin Williams, like funniest, greatest man ever, and and
Battling a
we
silent illness.
absolutely, and we lost him to suicide. So um you know it's just something to kind of maybe change your perspective and widen your mindset, that some people just truly, they it's a health issue.
It's a
And
health issue, and it's not black and white. It's a very wide spectrum.
right,
So
and just because you can't understand it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
and doesn't mean that it's wrong. Just because it's
Right.
not your experience doesn't mean that it's the wrong way to approach something. Obviously, if you're harming others or harming yourself, you need to reach out and get professional help because you need better tools. But feeling something, just because someone else doesn't feel that way does not mean that you're wrong about the way you feel.
Yeah, definitely. So
you're allowed to feel all the things.
Yes. And so are other people.
And so are other people, yeah.
Again, just because you can't see it or you don't understand it, that doesn't mean that it's right or wrong. Just try to be a little more open and understanding to people out there that may be suffering and you don't understand it. And you just, if that's your Eeyore and that's your friend, then appreciate and love them for who they are and check in on everybody and be there for everyone and let people vent and let people,
be who they are,
have their moments, let people cry and be upset. That's normal, so, well, that is all. That's all for now.
We'll conclude that one.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening and tuning in, stretching.
And reach out.
You can find us on The Invisible Diaries on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and all that stuff. So thank you.
Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.